and he'll probably have to fix or at least reform stop and frisk, depending on how that plays out in the courts. We'll talk about later. You got union contracts, a whole bunch of things that'll be sitting on the plate of the next mayor, in all likelihood, Bill de Blasio tonight. Now, we go to New Jersey, where it's fascinating, Congressman, because this might be a little bit inside baseball, but I think it's telling. Those that won't be at Barbara Bora's headquarters tonight, we were making some phone calls before the night started. Almost all the congressional delegation, Democratic congressional delegation, won't be there. Cory Booker's staying in Washington tonight. A bunch of former governors, Democratic governors, are going to stay away. I can't think of another Republican in such a blue state in this country with this much sway. He's really a unique phenomenon in modern politics today, isn't he, Chris Christie?
Well, there have been others like him in the past, but
I'm saying today.
Not recently. And to be the governor of Jersey and be a Republican, that's pretty amazing. To win re-election and hopefully win by a sizable amount. But, this is a cruel process. I mean, he's running against a talented woman who all of a sudden no one wants to be around.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, I had 20 elections, and election day, you're just happy to have it done with. But it's a heck of a lot more fun to campaign those last 2 weeks being ahead.
I saw you grimace a little bit, and I think there's a healthy amount of sympathy for the Joe Lodas or the people like that across this country,
yeah.
whatever office they're running for. When they look at the polls, they look at the registration numbers, they know, it would take 3 meteors to strike at the same time to win, but yet they got to put the brave face. They got to say what everyone looks at them and rolls their eyes when they think they're optimistic they're going to win tonight, when they know they're not.
Yeah, I know, but, I could never tell people I thought I was going to win if I did. And I always told people, you find out election night.
Yeah.
You don't want to be arrogant.
But the difference between the big front runners tonight, at least in my mind, Bill de Blasio has been able to ride the wave of the issues that seem to be at the forefront of voters' minds in New York City. The sense of inequality, the sense of the outer boroughs not feeling included in New York City. He was able to ride that wave to the Democratic nomination, and then we expect him to ride that to victory tonight. Christie has been the opposite. Christie has really crafted the issues that are going to lead him to a re-election tonight in New Jersey. His force of personality, his focus on economic issues, when you might argue that that's really not the focus in New Jersey this go-around. Barbara Buono certainly has not been able to cater the issues to her campaign.
There are, I though think, if people pay just a little bit of attention, and I certainly don't think Washington in the last year has been, if they want to take messaging, and the Grand Ole Party more specifically, but even across the aisle, to what has made Christie, in all likelihood, going to coast to an easy victory tonight, they missed the 2 big things. He still is conservative on social issues in a progressive state, but this thirst for authenticity and for somebody who they think won't lie to them. They might not like what he has to say. I tell this story all the time. I covered Chris Christie in an event when he walked into a room full of firefighters, when he was about to tell them that he was changing the benefits plan. He was going to cut back on the union deal here that was negotiated before he came in office. And they were catcalling, hissing. This was not a meek crowd. By the end of it, even though he told them there was tough love coming, he got a standing O. And the idea that somebody can walk into an environment, I don't agree with everything Chris Christie says, far from it, and you believe what he says he means, and won't sugarcoat it to you. There's such an appetite for that out there now.
He means it, and there is an appetite.
Appetite now. We'll see what happens in 2016, because that show is not going to sell well nationally.
You know what? You might be right, Dominic, but I do think at incumbent's peril, they're still playing by the same playbook, but there's a different set of rules with today's media, and because of the really fatigue factor of the American public, where they just are so sick of having to parse with what lawmakers has to say. I really think I'm right on this one, that if they're smart, listen, the president, and I don't want to get on healthcare tonight, he should get in front of everybody and say, not only is he mad, but here's the truth, guys. We screwed up. This is where it's going to be. Now, I'm not throwing the towel on this. I'm going to fix it. This is what it's going to take. But there's some real problems.
That's what Jack Kennedy would have said.
Right.
He would have said, we screw
Just
up.
like after the Bay of Pigs.
Yeah.
Right.
And
But it's not like a suit that you can put on and all of a sudden talk like Chris Christie. It happens to be his authentic personality. I mean, you're a dynamic public speaker, but if you tried to behave like Chris Christie, I don't think it would fit you particularly well on the campaign trail.
Oh, he yells at
you
everybody.
you have to be yourself, and there's a certain measure of that as well. It's the authenticity that Christie presents. It's my least favorite poll number that we ever get is who would you rather have a beer with, the candidate you'd rather have a beer with? I hate that question because to me it has nothing to do with who's going to be the best at their job, who represents your interests, but that's the poll number that Christie, I think, runs away with. And I'm curious, as a former elected official yourself, what your thought about that number was.
Since I don't drink beer, I'd like to sit there while he drinks beer and I can watch him. I mean, he's an interesting, fascinating guy. And let me just say, if the Pope can, in a sense, back off from abortion issues and gay issues and say, we are a big tent, that's going to help Christie, because that same attitude is starting to be said in our
It's
party.
fascinating. I saw both he and Rand Paul interviewed today. He being Chris Christie, excuse me, and Rand Paul in separate interviews. Neither shied away from the 2016 implications of tonight. Usually you see at this time calendar, Dom, saying, oh, well, it's too premature. They both are talking openly because they think there's a window that the Republican Party has a chance to redefine itself. And they are from two very different wings with two very big political national ambitions. They're already embracing it as this challenge here for the party to do this.
What's interesting, Richard, 2016, as far as Christie, it started way before tonight. 2016 for Christie started when he got Cory Booker out of the way, because he knew he had to run up a margin of victory tonight. And it's interesting, Congressman, that you said the process. I know you got to move on, and we'll continue about Christie.
Tonight, God knows, we're going to have time for this one. We're going to be talking about it tonight here as the returns come in. But when we come back, we're going to talk more election coverage, but on two races that should be far closer here and also be fascinating in the messages that they say as well. Again, polls closing in New Jersey at 8. In New York, they're closing at 9. When we come back here, we will turn our attention over to the local level and to two county executive races that have gotten their own share of national attention as well. We'll tell you why after this.